and welcome to Live Well, Be Well, a wellness show where we explore diverse ways to boost health, well-being and connection. Breathe, thrive and feel alive. My name is Deborah from Be Well with Deborah. I'm a wellness coach, a laughter yoga teacher and your show host for today. The purpose of the show is to inspire and educate as we explore many paths to wellness together. Creating community and connection is vital for true wellness, and here we have the opportunity to listen to those doing incredible work in the wellness field, as well as individuals with inspiring personal stories of their own wellness journey. Creating community and connection is vital for true wellness, and my hope is that the insights and experiences shared here bring you inspiration, encouragement and hope, especially if you or your loved ones are facing any challenges on your own wellness journey. Before I introduce my guest today, I would like to give out 2 numbers for helplines if anyone is affected or has been affected by the topics that we'll be covering and discussing today. Some very, very sensitive but well needed discussions in and around the area of suicide and suicide prevention. The first number I'm going to give out is PETA. It provides a range of services nationally to people who are experiencing thoughts of suicide and those who engage in self-harm and those who are bereaved by suicide. Services are provided free of charge and there's no referral needed. The number for PETA is 021 439 53332, and the other number is for the Mental Health HSE Support Service, which is 1800 11 1888. So my guest that I'm going to have on today, which I'm really excited to explore and talk with today, is Karen O'Sullivan. Karen is a first aid medical technician. She also is trained in manual handling and a mental health first aid instructor. She's also a suicide first aider and a emergency medical technician. She's deeply committed to mental health awareness and suicide prevention. Her career began in the pharmaceutical industry as a chemist, and she later expanded into the academic research, lecturing, tutoring, and also being a great advocacy for the STEM. She has shared her journey publicly through Goshka, which is a President Award, and she inspires others to reach their full potential. Driven by a love of adventure, Karen embraces life fully, whether through acting, photography, or endurance running, or her passion for the sea. With 3 legs of the Camino behind her, she believes that life is not about the destination, but all about the journey. Her true calling lies in motivating others, showing with the right mindset, even closed doors can lead to powerful new beginnings. Welcome, Karen. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks so much, Deborah, for having me here. I'm just delighted to be here today. It's an honour.
Brilliant. How are you feeling today?
Yeah, I'm feeling great today. Yeah, I'm off for the weekend, so it's fantastic.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, hopefully now the weather will crack up a little bit. It's been a bit rainy and mixed weather. So, Karen, your professional journey began as a chemist in the pharmaceutical industry, and it involved into academia with really strong focus on research, and I can imagine it was very intellectually focused and very mindset focused. What inspires your transition from such professional fields then into being a suicide first aider and also mental health first aider instructor? What motivated that shift from emergency care what motivated the shift from lab into emergency care and mental health education?
Yeah, no, it's a very good question, Deborah, and it's one actually I suppose that I've reflected on myself for a period of time as well. But to be honest, it was sort of a gradual and a natural approach, I suppose, for me to go from one to the other as well. So yeah, when I was working in pharmaceutical industry and in the academic environment, I decided to, as you were mentioning there, take on the President's Award. As part of the President's Award, there is an aspect that you do for voluntary and for skill. So I was always interested in learning some first aid. So I went in, did the absolute basic course that I could do, fell in love with it, joined one of the voluntary organisations as well. So went out covering events and all that. And before it, I suppose, with the lecturing, with the teaching side, I've always had an interest, keen interest in teaching, and I believe that, life really, I suppose it's learning is a lifelong process. Every day is a learning for me, right? So from that, and getting in then as well, and going up the levels with my interest, becoming an emergency medical technician and working with a private ambulance. So there was opportunity to expand and do instructing courses in general first aid. So I did a few of those courses, but I've always been drawn as well, I feel, just to advocate for mental health. So I went into that field as well because it's just one of my passions. And from there, I guess, I stemmed into the suicide first aider side as well, because I believe it's so important. And do you know what? We don't know who can be impacted by it, but just to get the awareness out there and to help.
Very much so. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That sounds like a really interesting transition. And you speak of being a suicide first aider, which is so important. It's such courageous work. Well done, Karen. For those who may not know, what does that role involve?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question there as well. What I'm going to say is there's a global organisation known as Living Work Networks, livingwork.net if you go down that road. So it's globally recognised as a qualification. What I am going to say is in Ireland, through the Health Service Executive, there is actually availability for everyone to take on the course, be it somebody who's involved in the mental health profession, somebody who's been bereaved by suicide, somebody who just has an interest or wants to get involved. And it's really accessible. It's one of the courses that's offered for free. So what they do, just to give a background on what it would entail as well, initially there's a safe talk, and what that is, right, it's suicide awareness or alertness for everyone basically, and it's a half-day workshop. So they recommend that one's done first, so I would have done that myself. And what that is recognizing somebody might be in suicidal distress and knowing, where to send them for help. The other course which I did, the suicide first aider one, assist is what it's known as. So again, that's applied suicide intervention skills training is what it's known as. It's a 2-day course. It goes into a lot more depth, to be honest. So going in there mindful about it. It is challenging, it's fantastic to know, but it's also taking on the level of interventions as well, and helping somebody who is, going through suicidal, suppose stuff at the time, and knowing when, being there with them, sitting with them, helping them, and also going to the level if we believe somebody's in immediate danger, calling emergency services as well. But yeah, that's what it entails.
And when you speak then of, like, say, somebody that might be going through that, what would be some signs that people would notice? Because some people might be acting quite normal, or they might act that they're fine, but like with your training and your experience, is there any like signs or little things that people close to them, or even like people like in their community that might notice,
Yeah, that's absolutely so true over there. I mean, literally, some people will appear to be fine. They'll put on the smile or the mask metaphorically, and sure, I'm grand. On the outside, they look happy. They appear fine. On the inside, they're going through, internal turmoil. I suppose really just a lot. So it might be some subtle things. We might notice like some, behavioural changes, change in routines, physical changes, whatever the case is. But I suppose to give you an example there. Somebody who, like, all of a sudden they're oversleeping, they're not getting enough sleep, they're just saying, I didn't sleep that well, I'm tired. It's becoming more of a consistent pattern for them as well. They're not eating really, they're overeating maybe on the other side of it. Somebody's, as I was saying, really tired, but now they're just a bit more restless, I suppose, agitated, more reactive simply as well. Not quite themselves, but I suppose a key thing, and it wouldn't always be as obvious, but if somebody's talking sort of, why bother, or it's hopeless, what's the point? Hopelessness definitely be an alarm bell as well. And again, I suppose from the likes of social media, if somebody's online 24/7, posting at random times, or on the other side of the fence, have they become, increasingly isolated, cancelling plans at last minute, that sort of way, becoming consistently late, no interest in what they were passionate about before. So there's a few different things, and it's not to say necessarily if somebody's going through, suicidal crisis at the time, but there can be other things going on. But to be aware of it and having that chat with them is so important, as well. I would say.
Brilliant. Yeah, I would have been aware of some of the I suppose, signs and symptoms of, like that you mentioned, but even things there that you pointed out that I wouldn't have ever thought, like up late, being on social media, posting. There's some really, really good points there as well that I'm learning too as well. So thank you for sharing that. In terms of somebody then that is noticing these changes in their loved ones, how can they best approach them in conversation? Because it's such a delicate area. How can you best advise people to open up and approach these type of conversations?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose from a work side or from a community side, if somebody's involved in something, you might go to a line manager or somebody who's potentially trained as a mental health first aider as well and say, look, this is what's going on. How would you best advise? Or I'm concerned about someone, if you notice changes in the work environment or somewhere. But if it's somebody close to you, friend, family member, anything else like that, and I know it's a difficult conversation to have, it's going to feel uneasy at the beginning, but it might be the level of, look, I noticed you weren't quite yourself at the moment. I feel there's something going on. I'm here for you. Look, I noticed you weren't quite yourself, as I said. I'm here if you need to talk. And it might be dismissive and all that, depending. If we're really concerned about, the topic of, let's say, suicide, the assist course would have told us to say, and it's as direct as, are you thinking of suicide right now? And it's to get that message out there. But it's also to, it's not so much they'll go off and do it, it's more to realise that there's a safe place for them to actually, feel safe and chat about it, as opposed to being isolated and feeling they can't get that help as well, is what I would say, yeah. And just sit with them. I mean, we're not going to be, absolutely just non-judgmental. It's just an honest, real conversation, and just being there and actively listening and supporting them. That can help. Also having somebody there for them, making sure they're not on their own. Signposting, as you said, the likes of organisations like the Samaritans and all the rest of them are out there as well, fantastic organisations. And if we do believe they're in immediate danger, again, going down the road of emergency services for their own safety.
Brilliant, yeah, some really, really good points. Thank you for sharing. And you seem very passionate. You're a great advocate for the mental health and suicide awareness. And I'm curious, do you have a personal story, or is there a personal connection or a draw there for why you feel the way you do?
Yeah, no, that's a deep question, and unfortunately there was, and I believe myself and a lot of other people out there have been impacted by suicide. Either somebody's going through their own suicidal thoughts, or maybe they've acted on it, or bereavement, or they know somebody as well who unfortunately who's died by suicide. So for myself, back in 2022, a very dear friend of mine died by suicide. So to be honest, I mean, like any grief, there's a lot going on. It was overwhelming at the time, went through all the emotions, and there was a question at the back of my mind, what if only this, and things happen the way they do. But it's understandable, it's normal to question it. From all of this, I decided to bring some positivity to it as best I could eventually as well. And I decided, look, it's really important to raise awareness around mental health and suicide prevention. So I dived right in eventually and just really wanted to get the message out there for people as well, to honour my friend's memory, but also to help others who are going through things. And I'd like to think if I, in some way, shape or form, even just the tiniest piece can help in saving someone's life, it makes it all worthwhile as well. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like a very heartbreaking but touching story. So thank you so much for sharing that for me. So we're going to go for a small little break now, and when we come back, we'll touch in a bit more. Hello and welcome back to Live Well, Be Well, a wellness show where we explore diverse ways to boost health, well-being and connection, breathe, thrive and feel alive. My name is Deborah, and I'm talking today with Karen O'Sullivan, where we've been talking all about suicide prevention. I'm going to give out the number for Piatia again, which is 021 439 533332. And for the HSE Mental Health Support Services, it's 1-800-11 1888. So before we went to break there, we were talking about ways that we could look out for others if we felt that they might be acting fine, but maybe they might be having difficulties and thinking of perhaps even suicidal ideations. And Karen, I'm really curious, you as a suicide first aider and also a previous mental health technician, what, like, how can us as individuals and as society, how can we be more informed and what can we do better as a society in and around this topic?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Deborah. So I suppose, generally speaking, be it individual and society, really, unfortunately, there is still a stigmatism around both mental health and suicide. So I suppose getting word out there, generally speaking, and getting rid of this silence that's associated with it. Like Pieta now do the Darkness into Light awareness walk and other events annually as well, which is one of the things. But we can actively do other things as well. So as a society, really, I suppose, getting more education out there, getting more training, which is what I like to do actually from the mental health first aid courses. It's just so important, be it in the communities, if someone's in sports or, other community groups as well. Getting that information out there, getting people trained, it's so important, and making, I suppose, the mental health services more accessible for people as well. And so people are, feeling not isolated, feeling it's okay to get help, which it absolutely is, feeling they'll be heard and helped as well. And definitely, I believe personally, I mean, I know I, teach people CPR and basic first aid courses in general, so treating physical injuries and all that. But I believe that mental health first aid really should be out there as much as, your general first aid courses. I really do.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's definitely needed, like in these times as well. Would you feel that to have more of it, even to have it in more like colleges, communities, even secondary schools, like to really bring it in to make everyone super awareness?
Absolutely.
This, yeah.
The more awareness about it, it gets rid of the stigma around it as well. Because I know it can be a bit of a taboo topic as well, and like it shouldn't be. I think we should just get more comfortable chatting about it and getting that awareness out there so that people do feel they can approach and get help.
Yeah, then people wouldn't feel as isolated as well, and that they could speak up and get help. Yeah,
absolutely.
So I can imagine, being in the work and doing the role that you are, that it could be quite draining on the mind, the body, especially when you're very passionate about it and you've had your own personal connection to that happen as well in your family, or not in your family, but in your circle, like your close circle. I'm curious, what do you do then to be able to recuperate? What do you do to be able to fill your own cup up?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, I do try to give 100%, and I suppose you can only give from where you're at times, so it's so true. So in order to recharge, there's a few things I'll do. I'll try to improve on my boundaries and get more of work-life balance, but sometimes, I'll take on a lot, I suppose. So what I do on at least a weekly basis, being honest, what works well for me is just getting outside, getting in nature, and most specifically for me, it's like getting out in that outdoor sauna, getting into the sea, as I like to call it, a vitamin C. So, the contrast from the hot to cold, honestly, the amount of benefits there, right, from a physical side, from a mental side, spiritually, it just resets. And there is science there even to back it up. Muscle relaxation, you're releasing the happy hormones, the endorphins. And to me, honestly, if I have had a busy or stressful week, I'll feel better, it'll reset me. If I've had a good week, I feel better still. So that's what really works for me. And outside of it, a bit of exercise, the other round, maybe if I get some travel in, I find, connect in different ways with things as well. Definitely the sea and the sauna would be the key thing for me, 100%, yeah.
Brilliant. So getting the body moving, getting out in nature, getting the energy flowing within your system. You speak of travel, and I know you've done the Camino. Have you done that 3 times?
That's right? Yeah, I've done a few legs of it.
Yeah, would you like to share about how the Camino was? Because I've heard that people do it for different reasons, but it can be a very enriching, it can be a very emotional, it can be a very spiritual journey, and I'm curious to know how your journey on the Camino has been for you.
All I can say is absolutely incredible. I've, as I say, done 3 legs. The 3 legs were different. One was more a coastal route. The first one was challenging because it was the first one I ever, embarked on doing, and it was sort of more in a wilderness setting. And the other one I did, the middle one, actually went into the main hub, if you will, Santiago de Compostela. Going in there, it was busier, it was powerful. You could sense, like as you were saying, be it from a spiritual side, you could sense that lovely energy as well going in. But for me, it wasn't actually about the bigger parts or the big wins. People I went on Camino with the first year in particular were really good friends now as well. So people who were total strangers to begin with, we've just connected, and to actually have that, to have the real honest conversations. I mean, it's small things that really mean so much. To connect with nature, so I've connected with myself, done some healings, grounded, just slow down and to breathe, and the simple things, the sunsets, the sunrises, all those things really is what it was for me. And noticing how people from all walks of life, how even though we're disconnected in one sense, seeming so far away, but actually having real conversations and realizing we're actually all quite connected, and people all have their own journey, what they're going through, and to share it. But yeah, and then of course there was the laughs, there was the blisters as well.
So I've had a few friends who've done the Camino as well, and yeah, they've all had the blisters.
But yeah, no, it's been incredible in every walk of it, literally. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, I hear you there really touching about the connection and how powerful that is, connected to nature, connected to the sun, connected to people no matter what nationality they are. And you mentioned as well about the journey, that it's more about the journey and not the destination. Can you share more about what that means for you, and maybe some experience that you've had that's really shown you it's about the journey?
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, again, for me, I suppose at the beginning it's thinking, I have to walk 24 kilometers, how am I going to do it? But it's like anything, and I mean, literally, metaphorically, putting one foot in front of the other and just walking along. And I suppose for me with the journey, because at first I thought I have to get from A to B to C to D, and that was like what all walks of life for me before. And maybe being there but not fully being present in the moment. I feel that with Camino and with the journey in general in life, just taking that time to ground, to earth, to just be present. Now that could start off with like a nice cup of coffee or tea in the morning, and just really, being connected with it, tasting it, smelling it, all the rest of it. But again, just stopping, breathing, having the food stops as well in the Camino, but just having the real conversations with people and being quiet, because friends of mine will tell me, oh, she chats away. I do, but I do have quiet time as well, which is apparently strange for me. But yeah, it's absolutely just being present. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I can imagine that it was a beautiful trip on many different ways. And if somebody was listening now in this moment and they were feeling really stuck and quite down and quite hopeless, from your experience and from your heart, what information, what guidance would you love to share with them right now?
Okay, so if somebody was really going through a tough time and feeling stuck, I would say your feelings are real, they're valid. Honestly, it's okay to not be okay for a time, and it can be quite challenging and difficult for you at the time. I get that. But you're not alone, and I suppose it's just having a glimmer of hope, trying to reach out to get help, which is a very challenging step, but there is resources out there. Instead of acting on anything, just ground and do a bit of breath work, sleep on it maybe as well. I suppose really there are people out there, and you mightn't really believe it at the time from where you're at, I get it, but there really are people out there who do want to help and who do truly care as well. And taking that first step and getting that help can be key for you as well. I mean, what I'm going to say is there is loved ones, there's people out who do care, as I said, but you matter, your story matters. Please do get help if you need it. I mean, that's what it's there for.
Yeah, it seems to be, from what I'm hearing, and just even people that I've spoken to before that have gone through really tough, challenging times, that in that moment sometimes they don't know, they feel, number one, just super isolated, and that people just won't get them, and that sometimes there's no way out. So in your experience and from your work, you do feel that there is help out there and that there is people that care for them.
Absolutely, there is. And if somebody's going through a challenging time and they're deeper into it, it's hard to believe that from where they're at. But definitely there is help out there and people do care as well. I mean, to see the aftermath can be quite daunting as well. But if they could just sit with it, and time, things do change and times can get better. It does pass. It's tough to believe that at the time, but honestly it does as well if you stick with it.
Yeah. And if there was anyone listening now, say that loved ones of somebody that has transitioned, is there any words or is there anything that comes to your mind or from your heart that you can say for the people that are still here?
Yeah, be gentle with yourselves. You know, any grief is going to be a lifelong journey. It comes in waves and troughs. Do be gentle with yourself. And it's, I know the question can be there, you know, what if, but it's even if. I mean, we've done what we can do from where we're all at the time. And I know it's maybe a bittersweet situation to sort of deal with in that sense by any means, but please be gentle with yourself. And on that, actually, there is groups out there as well. Hug is what it's called, actually, and it's for people who've actually been bereaved by suicide as well. They do group settings for people, and it can be quite good. I've actually attended one or two of those as well as Pieta's bereavement counselling myself at the time. So, from a personal side as well, I will say, you know, that can help as well. But just be gentle with yourself, and maybe honouring their loved one's memory as well. Like a few of us will celebrate, you know, a good event that we'd associate with our friend as well, which I think is, it's lovely. It's just so important to have that. And yeah, I mean, I know the memories are there, you know, and it just shows, I suppose, the amount of love that was there.
Yeah, the love is always present.
100%.
And moving forward then, say, speaking with yourself and like in the next couple of weeks and months and stuff, what do you have coming up? Do you have any like events or any really like uplifting things happening for you that you'd like to share right now?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm hoping to get a few things into the pipeline, a few surprises out there. But being honest, one of my main drives now in the next while is to really get more, you know, intro courses to mental health first aid into the general community. So if anybody is interested in it, absolutely, you know, do get on to me and say about it. Outside of that, a bit of collaborative work as well, to bring more of a holistic approach to mental health, to incorporate the likes of mindfulness, you know, with other aspects as well, be it exercise, mindfulness, nutrition aspects, and yeah, just really put that out there, and maybe an outdoor event with potentially a sauna and the sea as well. I like to think it's obligatory, but you know, it's optional, of course. What can I say?
Fantastic. But yeah, there are some really good health benefits you were sharing there with the sauna and the cold water, which is fantastic. If somebody was listening and they wanted to get in touch or reach out to you, how can they go about doing that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Through any of my social media platforms. So on LinkedIn, I'm under my own name, Karen O'Sullivan. On Facebook, also Karen O'Sullivan, or Karen O'Sullivan Photography, an amateur photography page. On Instagram, Karen O'Sullivan Photography, or Karen_smile_OS as well on Instagram. On TikTok, or TikTok even, TikTok, I don't know, I'm thinking of TikTok, so can I say TikTok, right? I'm not making a new platform, I swear. On that, I'm under @Car_Awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome, I like to think so. And yeah, they're the main social media platforms as well. I think that's everything really. And on X, I'm under @Karen B. O'Sullivan. So,
brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Karen. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for coming on. A lot of food for thought, a lot of heartwarming stories, and a lot of really good personal insights. So thank you so much for sharing. Next week we're going to be back, and I'll have Jared James McCann. He's a youth project coordinator, so we'll be talking all things teens and teens' mental health and how to guide them through the tough, challenging times in their life. It's been an absolute pleasure. Until next time, be well, Deborah.